SVC Media.
Welcome to the iGaming Daily Podcast, analysing the news from the betting and gaming industry all over the globe, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market.
In case of emergency, please dial iGaming Daily. On today's episode, we are sounding the alarm on the state of the National U.S. Gambling Support Hotline 1-800-GAMBLER, which is fine for now, but the future is still up in the air. Then we're going to address a state whose entire gambling ecosystem seems to be up in the air these days, California, where we've got updates on DFS, tribes, sweeps, and now prediction markets, and how all of them are being hotly contested. I am Jessica Welman, managing editor of SBC Media, back in the hot seat with Charlie Horner, media manager, who I did not enjoy your and Tom's chemistry one bit. I do not like this. I want my job security.
Yeah, well, just be careful in the hot seat, Jess, because we're coming, I guess.
I know. The youth, they're after me.
No, it's good to have you back. Good to have you back.
I missed you guys. So thank you for welcoming me back on this one. The day that I was out is the day that this story came to my awareness, and I spent most of the day dealing with this. I did kind of the report on Nickel G's last week. I had the opportunity to go to the National Conference on Problem Gambling because it was just a couple hours north in Columbus, Ohio. And this was what everybody was talking about. So, have you heard of 1-800-GAMBLER before? I feel like I'm doing the shtick that we do, but like this can't have crossed the pond. Do you have a number like this in the UK?
So I've definitely heard of 1-800-GAMBLER because I remember writing about the National Council on Problem Gambling taking control of the number and that story. I remember, covering that extensively at the time. Do we have a similar number in the UK? Not one that you could sort of just remember off the top of your head like that, but there are well-known sort of problem gambling support services that people can contact.
Yeah, so for the international audience, 1-800-GAMBLER is functionally, it operates as kind of a national hub, and it's nice because at the bottom of ads where you've got the fine print, if you didn't have 1-800-GAMBLER, it would kind of like double how long that fine print is because you'd have to have numbers for every single state on how to reach it. Because in the regs, they'll tell you need to have a resource displayed on your ads. So NCPG kind of took the reins and said, we're going to use 1-800-GAMBLER where you kind of call this central number and then somebody answers and sends you to the state that you need to get the resources that you need if you're in crisis or that you think you might have an issue. Here's the weird part about it. They don't own this phone number. Do you remember this wrinkle, Charlie?
Yes, absolutely.
So I have to take a minute to talk about how mentally challenging it is to me that the New Jersey problem gambling body does not follow the state plus problem gambling plus association kind of acronym construction. And instead, it is the Council on Compulsive Gambling of New Jersey, the CCGNJ. Writing every single time I was like, am I writing this right? Is this right? I don't know if you have this problem where it's like when somebody bucks the convention, I'm suddenly unable to remember what they stand for.
No, 100%.
So anyways, New Jersey had this number, which makes sense because when you look at historically, Nevada and New Jersey for a very long time were the places with casinos and that's it. So they parked this kind of choice number. And what they did was made a deal with NCPG that NCPG pays them $150,000 a year. The initial term was 3 years. And they still own like the number and kind of the license trademark stuff on it. But NCPG is allowed to use it to reroute calls to other places. That deal was for 3 years, started in 2022. It technically ended in May of this year. Based on the court contracts that are court documents I've seen, what happened was NCPG feels there's an auto kind of renew for 3 years option in the contract. The contract is not publicly available at the moment. And they went to renew and New Jersey wasn't really being responsive. they were to an extent where they agreed to like extend to July the period to negotiate this. The contract also apparently suggests that you are allowed to mandate arbitration on discussing an extension. NCPG in court documents said, we asked over and over again for an extension. They just literally ignored us. They won't answer us. And then they did what apparently is also in the contract. They sued the council in a New Jersey court, basically saying, we have hit the deadline of when this deal technically ends, and we need the court to intervene to make sure that this phone number does not go offline. The court has done that. There is a hearing scheduled for August 26th, though in theory, CCGNJ. If you see the video of this, I'm literally squinting with effort trying to remember this acronym. New Jersey, for lack of a better way of saying it, can say, like, you know, we want to appeal the injunction or whatever. They haven't. We asked them for comment. They very quickly told us no thank you. NCPG concerned about this. Stakeholders at that conference concerned about this. For 3 years, people, operators, stakeholders, everybody have poured millions into making this number something that even if you don't gamble that much, I think, like, I could go up to somebody on the street and be like, what do you think 1-800-GAMBLER is? And they're probably going to guess, right, that it's something like a helpline.
Yeah, I think this is just really sad, if I'm honest. Yeah, like you say, there's been so much money poured into this as a resource to help people. And we should remember that this is ultimately to help people who feel like they've come into a problem with their gambling, and they think that they're getting into a hole that they can't quite get out of. And the thing that makes it confusing, upsetting, is that the NCPG and the CCGNJ, surely they want the same goal. They want to reduce problem gambling rates, whether that's in New Jersey or nationally. I'm sure the New Jersey, the New Jersey body want problem gambling rates to decrease, not just in New Jersey but across the country. So I just, you know, the US is notoriously litigious. If there's one thing that listeners should take away from our segment of the podcast, it is very litigious.
It is that Jeff should have been a lawyer, because this is it would be far more lucrative.
Absolutely. But I never ever thought that something like this would end up in court, because you would think that this is quite amicable. They're doing it for the good of the players, but seemingly not.
I think the weirdest part of this whole thing for me is it's very unclear what New Jersey wants. Do you want more money? Because I think you could probably just say, I want $500,000 a year. And I would guess, given the reaction of some of the people that I've spoken to, that Roga or SBA or somebody would go to partners and just say, you need to cough up this money now. And they would pay for it. Like, if it's more money, I think that's an easy solve. Do you want to manage it at the national level yourself? Is that it? Do you think you would do a better job managing it nationally, and you think that it could be handled better? Maybe that's it. Like, the terrifying one is, do you want to offline it everywhere else and take it back to just New Jersey? Because in that case, I mean, I know you're not supposed to editorialize some of this stuff, but like, it would be so horrible for so many people if that's the aim here. Because, again, the fine print we don't read. There are some states, like PG is kind of annoying in that, I mean, the same way state regulators are kind of annoying, that they get a bit territorial. And there are plenty of states that do mandate, like, you have to put our number in. And some of those are like pre-1-800-GAMBLER. You know, that was 21, 22 when that happened. So fine to the states that, you know, your Pennsylvania, New Jersey said you had to. But like, the goal has always been to make this easier. And what if I've learned anything about problem gambling from Canadian gaming business to now, because I did an RG panel there, it is that, one, there are a very limited number of people trained to help people with gambling problems. At Nickel Geese, Kevin Winters of a group called Almond Health said there are 9 in the entire state of Kentucky.
I mean, that's baffling.
In Texas, there's like
scary.
7. So
7 in the entirety of Texas.
There's not a lot of resources. And so it's going to be hard to find things. So creating a centralized location to help connect people to resources is so crucial here because, you know, talking about like FanDuel and some of the AI stuff there, I was saying like, you know, what do you do when you see that people have a problem? And the goal is you try to offline them to Kindbridge, which is their partner where you can get these free services because like you don't want FanDuel, like problem gambling is complex. It's not, you don't just like have a gambling problem and every other facet of your life is amazing. My understanding is the comorbidities are very high. You have anxiety, you're depressed, your marriage is suffering, you're estranged from your kid. And like, you do not want Kevin Hart popping up in the DraftKings app being like, yo, how's your marriage? Like, that's not who needs to be doing this. So the fact that like we are creating obstructions to offline people to the people that they need to talk to just makes me very stressed.
Yeah. Like I said, it's just, I think it's upsetting. I think it's complicating a process that doesn't need to be so complicated. Do players want to remember their specific regional number, or do they just want the one that's just in the mind of everyone because it's been publicized so heavily over the last couple of years? Do operators want to put 37 different phone numbers in their adverts? It just complicates everything for everyone, and I just think this needs to be settled one way or another.
Yeah, so as we go to break, just weird acronym Council of New Jersey, I implore you, just tell us what you want, and we as the industry will do what we can to make it happen, because like this number has to stay online. All right, I'm going to take a breather. We're going to come back. We'll talk California.
SBC Leaders connects the gambling industry's top-tier operators and associations to share the best ideas, collaborate on solving the biggest issues, and push innovation throughout the betting and gaming industry. If you're an operator and want to join the discussion, visit sbcleaders.com for more information.
Welcome back to iGaming Daily. It's been you guys didn't talk California last week, so I guess we've given them like a 2-week reprieve, but I got California updates out the wazoo, Charlie. So here, pick your poison. Where do you want to start? DFS, Kalshi, or sweeps?
I think DFS was all the rage a couple of years ago, so let's throw it back. Let's have a retro look at this.
We know start of the month the opinion came out, right? The AG opinion from Rob Bonta's office that basically said we think just about every form of daily fantasy sports is in violation of the law. They made no distinction peer-to-peer versus against the house. Also, reading the tea leaves, it kind of said like, because the question posed to them to answer in this opinion was daily fantasy, it kind of seemed like had you removed the daily, they would tell me that like my fantasy league with my friends is illegal. Like, I think season long, in theory, based on their rationale, would be illegal too. Anyways, we are now reaching 3 weeks past this. And Rob Bonta kind of came out on local TV for the first time and said, yeah, I'm going to do something about this and enforcement is coming.
So what does enforcement look like? What do they
Oh
think
gosh,
that
that's a good question, right? I think step 1 is probably cease and desist letters. But actually, that's on the enforcement side. What I think is happening now, you know, the opinion came out, every operator and association kind of issued a statement saying we look forward to working with the AG's office. Lines of communication are open right now. It's not like people aren't talking. And I think they're trying to potentially settle, potentially challenge. And I don't think everybody's aligned on what they want. Like, if you go and look at our kind of breakdown of the opinion and all of the responses, you see that FanDuel's tone is much different from everyone else's. In that they were like, we look forward to reaching a resolution with the AG's office. DraftKings is like, we believe in peer-to-peer fantasy and disagree. Underdog Prize Picks Association very firmly said this is BS. Gavin Newsom, the governor, hinted overtly said he doesn't think this is worth doing. But FanDuel, this is where I'm that meme where the guy like puts he puts his finger in the air to be like, consider that a little over a year and a half ago, maybe, FanDuel hired former Nevada Indian Gaming Commission Chair Sequoia Simmemeyer to work in the government relations. Consider that they have shown up to many tribal events and been very, very proactive in hiring tribal people and fostering that relationship. Now, we did have a blow up at the Indian Gaming Association convention where like a journalist got in the room and said like DraftKings, FanDuel, and Tribes are reaching a deal and they weren't supposed to be in there, and SBA had invited them in. FanDuel is still working to fix that. DraftKings, I think they may have seen like we're not making headway here, but FanDuel, out of everybody, is best positioned to be the tribe's partner if tribal sports betting goes, tribal online casino goes. So I think FanDuel's in a different boat. They just go to the AG's office, they settle, they agree to pay a certain amount of money, get out of Dodge.
But do you think that sort of fragmentation then puts the other players at risk? Because
Yes.
then the AG's office can say, well, look, FanDuel, one of the most established names in the sector, they've left. They agree with us.
That
So
is exactly the problem.
you better get in line as well.
That is what I think is going to happen. So it puts them in a precarious situation. DraftKings still looks dissimilar from everyone else, that like this is part of their business, certainly, but it's not like, Prize Picks, this is all they do. You know what I mean? Like this is the only thing. And DraftKings also might in the back of their mind be saying, well, we acquire this Railbird exchange and we just offer some version of that in California if turns out we can on event contracts. They're still going to fight it though. The question to me is two questions, actually. One, I think cease and desist is the enforcement to answer that question. In terms of next steps from the operators, one, I'm almost certain there will be a lawsuit because this isn't Delaware where you just cut your losses. You do take a lot of risk on. If you lose, you might have to pay like back fees on all the stuff that you've offered. But I think somebody is willing to take that risk at this point in time. Maybe a couple of somebodies, you don't know. And they will sue. The question is, when do they sue? Do they sue when the cease and desist comes like Kelshi did? I think so. I don't, to me, I'm not a lawyer, as we know. I wish I was. Like, they can do the cease and desist. As we mentioned before, this opinion technically doesn't change the law. And you know that the governor doesn't want him, like, going out arresting Jason Robbins. And that's not really how these generally go. But, like, they can eventually, if they wanted to, try to bring charges against somebody if they don't leave. I don't think we get there before a lawsuit, but I don't know.
No, and I agree with you in the fact that I think there will be a lawsuit, not just because, well, this is the US gaming scene, there's bound to be a lawsuit, but as you mentioned, the prize is so big. If they do overcome the state and overturn that decision, and they're allowed to offer these products in California, that is such a big market. That is such a big prize.
I think it's like a third of their revenue, 20
Exactly.
to 30%, something like that.
Yeah, and we've mentioned not directly related to the DFS decision or anything like that, but California is so big for so many operators, and we mentioned that the potential impact on affiliates a few weeks ago if there was anything to happen to the sweeps situation in California, which I'm sure we'll
That's next.
touch on very
you
soon.
segued
So
already for
yeah,
me.
so it's such a big prize that I'm not surprised that the lawyers are already getting themselves ready to file.
Exactly. Sweepstakes, not a huge update. It's moving through committee. The bill has changed slightly. We mentioned like the ACLU and stuff. We're saying like this seems like you're going to come after customers. So they've changed the language to make it clear that they're not going after individuals. So I think like if you're Paris Hilton and you're Ryan Seacrest, you breathe a little sigh of relief. It seemed like suppliers, based on conversations in hearings, were going to get tossed too, but that's still there, the supplier piece, including affiliates. It moves on to appropriations. That's the last committee stop before the full Senate floor. But that hearing is not happening until like August 23rd, I believe. So quiet on that front for 4 weeks. But then in the meantime, I got another lawsuit. We got another Kalshi lawsuit.
Brilliant.
This time, Kalshi, the defendant instead of the plaintiff. 3 tribes, the Blue Lake Rancheria, Chicken Ranch Rancheria of Miwok Indians, and the Picayune Ranch area of the Chukchansi Indians. I'm so sorry that I know I didn't get that one right. The 3 of them are suing Kalshi. I know we're running low on time, so I'm just going to do the quick recap. You can ask a question at the end if you have it, Charlie. This is different than the other state lawsuits. The other state lawsuits are saying you're breaking state law. These guys are saying you're breaking the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, which is, we believe this is there's different classes of gaming. We don't need to go into that. We believe this is class 3 gaming the same way sports betting is. And for those who don't know, like the land in California, there's land segmented out that is tribal land. It is technically not the United States of America. And they are saying, they want the court to say, you have to geolocate us out. And they are also saying, because they brought in Robinhood too, which here's why, and it's kind of smart. Robinhood makes a deal with Kalshi to have their event contracts on their app. So now you can say this is racketeering, RICO charges, because the 2 of you are conspiring to commit wire fraud, transfer money across, state lines, et cetera, et cetera. And when you do that, your monetary damages that you can be awarded triple.
Nice.
So that's, I think, why Robinhood is involved in this as well, is just like, might as well get money.
Yeah. Well, why not?
So yeah, that's filed, and it'll be interesting because it's just a different argument.
Yep. My brief observation before I ask a question is really high stakes, really, really important case, because obviously it's not on the state level, it's federal, so it could have bigger ramifications. My question, therefore, or my questions, is what happens next in this? Where does this go? And obviously, we're not a lawyer, but what's the likelihood? What's going to happen in this case?
So same thing here. It sits in a district court right now, the District Court of Northern California. So next step is Kalshi has an opportunity to, I'm guessing they'll file a motion to dismiss. That's usually procedurally what happens. There is no request, to my understanding, for like a temporary restraining order like there was in these other cases. So with that, I think it'll go a little slower. But in the meantime, like, it's not that the tribes haven't been involved in these other cases. They filed an amicus brief in the Third Circuit appeal of the New Jersey injunction. They got on a group amicus brief in the Maryland one, arguing their case too. I think just the goal of this one is, so far Kalshi's winning on some of these preemption things in the early stages. So why not get another situation going where you challenge it primarily from the IGRA point of view and change the framing of it. In that case, depending on what these other courts say, it can impact, but there is a chance that the argument that the judge puts forth in their ruling doesn't have the same application here because it's state law versus federal gaming law for Indians and tribes. So
it's complicated.
Yeah, it is. The thing that kind of blows my mind on this is, for years, the tribes have been kind of lamenting that they can't get anything done in California in particular. And now suddenly they seem to be getting all sorts of things done. This sweeps bill, it sure seems like everybody is backing it, ready to go. You know, you listen to like the Quintens hearing for the CFTC chair, Adam Schiff, granted a Democrat, going to be poised to challenge whatever. But this is, Quintens has had Democratic support before. He very much was like tribal lands, because he's from California and he cares if the tribes back him or not. There's true stakes for these politicians. And I don't know what changed, if the tribes just like moved it higher on the agenda or what, but like they are getting stuff done and they are keeping us busy. So keep checking into SBC Americas for all the California tribal updates, Calshi updates, sweeps updates, CFTC updates, all of these things that I didn't even know what they were 3 years ago, plus gaming news too. So check that out and tune in for another episode of iGaming Daily for all of the latest gaming news from around the world.
Thank you for listening to today's iGaming Daily podcast, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. If you want to find out more about some of the subjects raised today, feel free to explore any of the sites in the SBC News Network or check out the latest edition of the SBC Leaders magazine. Happy reading.